Hello, welcome everybody to the Recreation Committee of Perrysburg City Council. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizen concerns. Moving on. Old business. Riverside Park cannon stands. Does anybody have anything to say about that? The inclusive playground.
I do have a question on that one. With the
Yes.
master plan,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's supposed to come to, I'm looking at Bridget right now, that would be coming here to this committee.
It's going to planning and zoning.
Is it going to plan zone? Because I thought we discussed it at the last recreation committee when we changed it the last time as well.
I know that the planning and zoning committee agenda has it on for tomorrow night.
Okay.
It goes back to planning and zoning committee because it went to planning commission, and therefore in our ordinances, it then goes back to committee, and then it goes to all of you for city council if committee forwards commission's recommendation.
Okay. I don't have an issue with it, but I just was kind of curious because I know that it's one of those ones that's kind of convoluted with it being a master plan for the parks, but also with the planning and zoning, how that works, so.
It obviously doesn't preclude any
Yeah,
committee from
it's on the agenda,
having
so
any
we
discussion.
could have a discussion on it if anybody would like to.
I'd like to see what planning and zoning has to say about it. That's tomorrow night.
I
Tomorrow
believe
night.
it is.
Yes, it is tomorrow night.
It's good that it's moving forward. Anybody else have anything else on the inclusive playground?
Tomorrow at 5:30,
5:30 tomorrow night?
yes.
No, I actually am anxious to see that master plan and the playground go in.
Yep, I am as well, and from the very beginning, I've been in favor of it, and I'm glad it's happening. On the splash pad, does anybody have anything to say about that? Jonathan? How about the multi-purpose wall? Does anybody have anything on that?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
What park were we thinking of putting that at?
Which one?
The multi-purpose wall?
I think it was brought to us that it was going to be, there was a gentleman that came to us last year, Damon Gortz, and he said that he would like to have some, he brought it forward to us, he said it cost, I think as I recall, $15,000 to $20,000 if I remember correctly. And you would be able to, it wouldn't be necessarily in any, the way you presented it wouldn't be necessarily in any park per se. It would just be able to go to different parks so people could practice with the multi-purpose wall.
Okay.
Was my understanding on that. Any other questions, John?
No, that's,
Thank you. Jonathan, do you have any questions on that? On the west side handball court, that was something that was brought to our attention by Al Reva, and he has submitted, he's going to be submitting some ideas or plans, possible plans about that, and I will bring that to the next meeting when I have them. We discussed that last year. Does anybody have any questions on that? How about the Unleashed Dog Park? Any questions or discussion from Jan or Jonathan?
I know we talked about that length the last one. It's still something I think we need to, I actually just got a copy of the budget that I'm looking over right now. That just was put on in front of me here. And I want to look that over, see what's in the budget and potential changes, but that's something I would like to see in this 2021 budget.
yeah, we talked about having, put what, 25,000 aside?
About 25,000, and in the service committee, with the bucket truck that was purchased, there was that $30,000
Extra.
savings, I guess we would call it, and that was going to go back into the general capital fund, if I recall correctly, and which would leave additional funds available potentially that we could set aside specifically for that. I would, if I'm trying to go through the budget very quickly here since it was just put in front of you for the revised one. And I don't want to make a jump the gun on anything, but I really think that if we have the money available, we should look at putting that additional extra dollars from the budget, from the bucket truck aside specifically for a unleashed dog area, with the goal of trying to have that up this year.
I do have some questions on it. I have some pros and cons. I think in the Ohio Revised Code, it says that you, if I remember correctly, I think it's 95511. It states that you have to have a dog on a leash, if I'm not mistaken. Could I call on either Bridget or the law director, Ms. Cinderella?
My recollection of ORC 955 is that's the section of the Ohio Revised Code that oversees the dog warden, is the dog warden section of the Ohio Revised Code, and it might also include cruelty to animals. But I'd have to go back and reread that. It's been 10 years since I read that section of the code. But we can certainly do that and look at our code. Because I know there was discussion, I think back in 2012 about dogs in parks not on leashes.
Right.
And I think our code does stipulate dogs in parks are on leashes.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think the dogs are allowed already to go in the parks. I think all the parks with leashes, if I remember correctly.
I'll make a note of that. So
According to
have Kate and I
Ohio
follow
Revised
up.
Code, all dogs are supposed to be on leashes at all times,
That's correct.
or under some type of control.
Correct.
But I can't understand how you can have these dog parks if they're not in compliance.
We can take a look at that, me and the law director.
Yeah.
We'll look at both ORC and our codified ordinances.
Yeah, I'd like to get some opinions from both Ms. Cabot and Ms. Sandero to share with us as well as pros and cons.
I think we'll also want to speak to our insured and what our liability is.
I think this is a liability, but I've read that if, even though there's an area in some places, I think it was in New York City, I just recently looked this up, where people that have larger dogs sometimes don't take care and then can go after the smaller dogs and either harm or kill the dog. There's also the parvovirus, I think I read about that as well. That was a real problem in a lot of the dog parks for a while. So pros might be that you could, I guess, take the dog there, and I don't know if you could socialize, but I guess that would be a pro in that part. But I think that there are some cons as well that we need to look at, legalities possibly. So I'm going to look to the two of you to, if you could bring those things to us, or if you have thoughts now.
One thing I'll mention, Chairwoman, is that you mentioned the large and small dogs. The idea behind the unleashed area was to have two separate locations.
Right.
One for small dogs, one for large, so that way.
Right, but unfortunately, what I've read is, I think it's in Chicago and in New York, where they have these dog parks. The problem is that they don't tend to be policed very well. So there have been injuries to the smaller dogs. Either they've been harmed or they've been killed, that type of thing. So that's something that we would have to look at.
And that's also one of the reasons why I made the suggestion of having the signs out there to let everyone know the risks that they take. But that's something that we can have the legal side to look up on what we can and can't do with it. To keep it as simple as possible is essentially the goal that I would have with it, and I think it would be a nice added benefit to our community.
Where would you be thinking about putting it?
We have several locations that I passed out in the
Correct.
last meeting. At the end of the day, I think it would be best to work with the administration, find that best location based off of the usage that the fields all have within the community.
Something was mentioned, I think, the last meeting about, I think it was bicentennial, and having lived in that neighborhood years ago, I remember a lot of the residents around there didn't like a lot of activity going on around there. I think that would be a concern, that maybe put it, if we were gonna put it anywhere, if it needs to be anywhere, it should be in maybe a Rotary Park or the park that's right nearby.
That's all right. I mean, I actually live in the bicentennial neighborhood, lived in that area since 2011. The area that would be, the biggest concerned area tends to be where the ballpark is, the ball diamond and the parking. the location that I propose on there is a spot that usually doesn't have too much traffic, but yeah, if there's heat, I am willing to take it if that's the place that it goes to from my neighbors. But as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard any complaints from any of my neighbors on that.
Other than occasional baseball practice, that's a very underused park in my opinion, from when I lived in the neighborhood.
There are, we have several agreements with several sports organizations for, PYSA has youth soccer that takes place over there certain times of the year. PABSC also utilizes the baseball field over there, for not just, regular games, but they also have a new T-ball league that they also utilize that space for. And then we do have, the cross-country groups that utilize that on a limited basis. But the most groups I can think of is PYSA and PABSC.
Yeah.
And I believe those soccer nets are all set up on the west side of the park as well, which the proposal that, and again, this is not saying that that's going to be the park. I think this is something we work with the administration on identifying what would be the best location to put this, should we move forward with it.
There's several points that I'd like to bring up. I'm just bringing them up to bring them up. But from looking at dog parks in our area, it seems that dogs should be licensed, vaccinated, spayed, or neutered to use a dog park. Who would police the users to make sure this is the case? Is there liability if an unlicensed dog harms another dog or person? Who will clean up the inevitable dog waste left by owners? We currently have issues at Three Meadows and Woodlands Park, and I think Ms. Cabot can agree with me about the Three Meadows and Three Woodlands Park issue. And the city spends about $4,000 on mutt mitts annually so owners can pick up their dog's waste. Should the park be manned to make sure dog owners follow the rules? If so, who pays for this? Will the dog park be open 24/7? If so, will lights need to be installed? If not, will the city have to send personnel to lock the park or install locks on timers? Should there be water available for the animals? What happens if a dog gets loose from the park and harms others? Who's liable? Who maintains the park? Meaning someone will have to bring topsoil in to fill holes in reseed bare spots. Will dogs barking disturb neighbors and lead to complaint calls? Should there be shade facilities for dogs and owners? This part right here, I've been given by Ms. Cabot in particular, just like the mutt mitts I mentioned to you. Ms. Cabot said that she has been told by the Toledo Lucas County Metro Parks Executive Director that you need twice the space of the dog park you want because you need to rotate the dog park to allow one area to rest while the other park is operational. That regular overseeding, fertilization, and irrigation are essentially a must, but even with these practices, the turf will still get to beat up and muddy if you don't take it offline and rest. That consistent rotation is a best practice and a must, and users seem to appreciate a separate large and small dog area. So I hope you didn't mind me quoting you on this.
No, that was from Dave Zink. I spoke to him personally on the phone. He's their executive director. He said they're getting ready to install a second dog park over in their system, and he said the lesson learned was having separate areas for large and small and an extra set of those areas, because he says you will get holes, you will get grass that won't grow, you'll have to bring in topsoil, you have to seed it, water it. While you're doing that and getting it established, then the other park, fenced-in dog park, is utilized while that is rested. He said that was critical that they found out.
So it's good to hear that they want to put a second one in, means it's pretty successful. Chairman Moore, if you don't mind, would you be able to email those over to the committee? Just so I would like
Just
to,
all the thoughts that I
if
came
you
up
don't
with?
mind, yes.
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
know.
Any other thoughts that you have on that, Jan or John?
Dog park? No.
Under new business, does anybody have any new business?
Yeah, I have something I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
I couldn't help but notice that there was no item on the agenda for approval of minutes. I do know you gave the report at the council, and that's well and good, but according to our charter, we have to approve meeting minutes at the committee level, and I would make a motion that we approve the minutes that Mary Jo took at the last rec meeting as the official minutes for the council, for the committee.
I would have to say no to that because I gave the report and it was a written report that I gave the city council.
And it was very good, but you have to give at the committee meeting.
It does not say that in the charter.
I'll make a second, because from my understanding from the sunshine laws is we do have to have separate meeting minutes and a report. Unfortunately, isn't necessarily meeting minutes, and with all due respect on that, but I would agree that we need to pass. And I think our law director may have an opinion on that.
As we've discussed repeatedly regarding this issue, the charter very clearly states that the head of the committee shall make a report and present that report to city council. Ohio laws require, under sunshine laws, that committees shall be, sorry, I'm in the wrong section. That a public body must keep full and accurate minutes of meetings. Because a council member has indicated that the reports are the property of the committee chair and cannot be amended or voted upon, it was agreed by everybody that the minutes, which can be reviewed and voted on, would be presented at every committee meeting and voted upon to be passed. So, because Councilman Bourne, you indicated that you felt the report presented by you to City Council was yours and could not be voted upon or changed, and minutes are to be accurate and to be reviewed, and there is a right of other committee members to make motions to amend minutes. The minutes shall be that which is drafted by Mary Jo and presented to the committees, and the committee can vote to amend if they need to, or change them, and pass the minutes.
As I recall doing a little homework on this, some years back, there were some councilmen, long prior to any of us being on city council, who decided they didn't want to give their reports, and that's how the reports began being written by staff members. And that's how that came apart. But it does say in there, it's under the rules of council, it's not under the charter.
Right, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it states that it should be typewritten,
Absolutely.
which I do at every meeting, and I give them out, and I send them out far in advance to all the city, to
Correct.
all of everybody.
But that's your report.
That
It
is
doesn't
correct.
say minutes. That is your report. You very clearly indicated to the rest of City Council that because it was your report, no council members had the right to make a motion to amend your report because it was your report for your committee. Minutes are amendable. So the minutes that are taken by Mary Jo will be the minutes for all of the committee meetings. If you want them to be the same as your report, as many council members do, I know Councilman Materney doesn't change the minutes or redraft them. I don't think Councilman Smith does either. He may edit them a little bit.
I do, but I submit it back and we have those conversations.
The question I would like to ask Ms. Materney and Mr. Smith is, do you actually write the reports?
Do I write the reports?
Yeah,
Actually, what does that have to do with right now? We're talking meeting minutes.
because the understanding that I'm getting from this is I'm the only one that's writing the reports.
They
And that's what it
take,
states. It
the
states
council
that-
members take the minutes drafted by Mary Jo. They review them. They make edits as necessary and submit the typewritten minutes as their report. There is nothing wrong with that.
I do not go directly by them from the council meeting. I'll shorten them up a lot, especially if they're long, but it's not, it's a report, it's not the official.
Well, I do take painstaking minutes, and I do go over it over and over again to make sure that I have everything that needs to be covered.
And that is wonderful, but you have indicated specifically that no one has the right to vote to amend your report. Because you took that position, we have to be able to have minutes that can be amended or changed. So what is drafted by Mary Jo can be presented by the other members of your committee and either amended or changed if necessary.
Here's what I have, and I thought this might come up. The following is this is what I've written. The following is a summary of the law director's comments concerning the preparation of reports minutes for city council meetings as discussed at the council meeting of December 1st, 2020. After every regular council meeting, the committee chair will prepare a report on the events which took place at the meeting. According to the rules of council, Chapter 220.05 of the City Code, this report is the personal responsibility of the chair, and it will be typewritten and read aloud in its entirety during the next regular council meeting. After it is read, any member of council may state any objections they may have to any statement made in the report, and these comments will also be included in the minutes of this council meeting. These minutes will then be approved at the following regular council meeting. At the same council meeting discussed above, a city employee will write a second report which will be designated as the minutes. This report will be presented to the committee for review at its next regular meeting. The committee can then approve it as is or with modifications. If it has not been determined what course to take, that there are differences in the two reports, but it should be noted that the full council has no obligation to pay attention to either, since there are only recommendations.
Okay, I don't understand how what you just read
I understand it perfectly.
differs from what I've explained. You are correct. The charter requires a report.
It's the
From
same-
you.
It's the rules of council. It's not the charter.
I'm sorry. The rules of council requires the report from you. I agree with you. But you stated very clearly that you did not feel other council members had the right to vote or amend that. Since you took that position, Mary Jo will draft the minutes. Those minutes will be presented. If you all believe that there needs to be an amendment, you may do so, and they will be the minutes of this committee, as they will be the minutes of every other committee as well.
I am going to stand by what I said.
Okay.
I'm going to still. I'm
Sunshine
going to
law
continue- I'm going to
trumps-
continue write my own report.
Absolutely. And your
I will be
report,
reading it at
Yes.
the council meetings.
yes, we are in agreement, 100%. And then when you come to this committee, because you have stated that that report cannot be amended by your colleagues, Mary Jo's minutes will be the minutes of this committee, reviewed by all three of you, and passed. We're in complete agreement. Your report will be read, it will be presented to City Council. I agree 100% with what you just said. But that's your report to City Council. That is not the minutes of this meeting.
So what are you doing? So what do you do with the report that I have given you before
becomes-
city council?
It becomes part of the
File it?
City Council records. That's your report that was presented at that City Council meeting.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, that report is the report presented to City Council per the rules of City Council. Absolutely. But it's not the minutes. Those minutes will be drafted by Mary Jo. You all can look at it, and if you don't even have to wait till here. If you want to email back and forth with Mary Jo and say, I know that that's what Mr. Smith does. I think this is inaccurate, or I want to do this. And then they will be presented at the council meeting, or at the committee meeting, and voted upon. I'm in complete agreement with you about your report. You draft your report, you type your report is accurate, you present it to City Council, it is the report that is presented to City Council. But because you've said that may not be amended by anyone, we have to have minutes that can be voted on. and amended, if need be.
Chairwoman Warren, anything online?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
I don't think any of us in city council are saying that you do not have the ability to read the report and read your report during the council meeting. The question does come to the meeting minutes per the Ohio Revised Code. Because I know we've had conversations numerous times over the past regarding the report and the possible changes that have been brought up. Having the meeting minutes is a way to fulfill the requirement of the ORC and still having the report that you get to prepare and read to council as a whole to be utilized and filed as a public record as the report of the actual meeting. So this is a way of trying to allow for that and then to abide by the Ohio Revised Code.
But do you write your own report?
I don't know what that has to do with what's going on right here.
That's what I wanted to know. Do you write your own report, Gina?
No, I don't. I review it, I make comments on it, I have it revised if I feel needed to. My report is an objective report of what happened at my committee meeting.
My reports are, believe me,
Subjective.
I go through it very painstakingly to make sure that I've got everything out there. So I think I do a pretty good job with our reports.
You do, for the most part.
I always do.
So I agree with everything you've said about your report. It's presented to city council, everything you've said. But as Councilman Smith said, the minutes are how we comply with the ORC.
So I've looked online and I've not been able to find all of where my report and the minutes that you mentioned that Mary Jo takes as well. I haven't seen them both listed on it.
I don't understand what you're
You
asking.
said they were both going to be listed. I haven't seen either of them listed lately.
We haven't passed minutes for this committee in some time, which is why that's not there. The reports will become part of the city council minutes, and we'll make sure that they're in there.
I will also add that the finance committee did not either have minutes ever looked at or passed the whole time last year.
Because we didn't have the problem that you took the position that reports could not be amended previously. When you took the position that reports could not be voted on by your council members, we have to have a means for recording minutes as part of the Ohio Revised Code.
Well, as I stated, what I read is what I stand by, and I feel I certainly have absolutely nothing against Mary Jo. I respect what she does. But I feel that they both need to be listed. If you're going to have them both on the website, my report should be listed there as well as the minutes that Mary Jo does as well.
We will look at that.
And also, we've not voted on that. This has only been a recommendation that I believe you made at, I believe it was the council meeting December 1st, 2020.
Correct, but this is the law, so it's not, you can't violate the law as council persons.
I'm not violating it.
If you refuse to have minutes presented that can be amended and voted upon, you're violating the Sunshine Law in the state of Ohio.
Well, I went to the Sunshine Law training class in 2019. I don't recall anything mentioned about this. I've got my notes and I went through it and looked at it. Then this one, I know it does apply to the Ohio Assembly, the Ohio State Assembly.
It applies to all public meetings. I believe you all have a motion on the floor.
I won't be voting on this because according to Robert's rules, I am the chair and I will leave it to
Perfectly acceptable.
members.
I would like to point out before we vote on that, never mind. Anyways.
Yes.
Jan? Okay, that's 2-0.
Thank you.
Okay, under the PrAC report, I do not have a PrAC report this evening. They will not be meeting until April. Does somebody else have anything else to say?
I have a question. Well, question and comment. Are we losing somebody else off the PrAC committee?
I have not heard that.
Or, okay, I was under the impression that somebody was not, because their term was expiring and they weren't reapplying or something. Maybe I misheard something.
I've not heard that, but it could be. It hasn't been brought to my attention. Thank you for mentioning it.
As I said, one other thing, if you don't mind, there is a Sunshine Law training online tomorrow. I actually had signed up for it a while ago, but it's a webinar from 9 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. I know that as council, I think, did you send that over to us, Kate?
I did remind all of you that elected officials are required to attend Sunshine Law training or have a designee. I would prefer that each of you attend, just so that we are all on the same page.
How good is your training good for?
I can answer that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I was curious to know the answer. I contacted the Ohio Attorney General's office, and they said that during your 4 years on city council, you only need to go once.
Right.
And I
which would make sense.
did. I did in 2019 already.
That would make sense to me, that you have to go every election cycle.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty common.
I
Thing.
have both that ethics training for my certification, and I was just hoping that would be good enough. My certification is.
But to be honest, the website doesn't make it clear. It just says, which is probably why you had to call. It just says that elected officials are required
Yeah.
to do
that-
this, and then fails to give you a,
That is why I called.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything else to say? Okay, we are adjourned.